So I tell people I'm transparent. I say, look, let's get you lean. This is what you want. You are still going to get to work out, but you need to realize that during this phase of your journey, this is not the time to hit a PR. Like you're not going to max
Right.
deadlift when you're
Right.
in this cut. So just know that you're going to go through your routine, but you're not going to break records.
Hey, welcome to the First Optimal podcast here with Molly McKennedy. Really excited to have her on for all of you and looking forward to diving into all kinds of things health related, Molly's journey and all of her expertise. And so thanks so much for jumping on. Appreciate you joining us today.
Yeah, I love this. Thanks so much for having me. I feel completely honored that you even asked.
Of course. Well, I know there's a lot of people out there that are going to get a ton of value out of today's episode. So before we get into all the fun stuff, I thought maybe if you can kind of high level give us a little bit about, what specifically you do, who you work with, and then we'll kind of dive into your story a little bit and go from there.
Yeah, absolutely. So what I do, I am a health coach. I specialize primarily in nutrition programs for weight loss.
Mhm.
Um, so I have a degree in exercise and sports studies from the University of Texas. So, a lot of knowledge on exercise, but this really allows me to help everyone because everybody has to eat food. So, if you're wanting to lose weight, nutrition is definitely the way to start. And I primarily help people, men and women, actually, and usually between the ages of late 30s to all the way up to 70.
Sure.
Because when you're in your 20s, you're typically not struggling too much. So I find that later in life, is when things really start to hit and people are struggling and looking for help.
Yeah, no, and I was thinking about as I was preparing for our conversation today, I was looking at some of your content, prior to that as well, obviously, but because you did you start lifting around 16, I believe I saw an image where you had some dumbbells and you're 16. So
Yeah.
you could tell like how long have you been doing this? And obviously, college it was a big part. You invest a lot of time and effort into learning about this. So how long have you been kind of overall in just the coaching industry and working with so many people?
So, coaching industry, 10 years.
Mhm.
I'm 49, so I'm turning 50 this year. I got into nutrition and weight training when I was 16. And look, my friends thought I was weird because at 16, that's not what people are doing. I had a little bit of a crazy phase too, but I'd say I graduated high school with a pretty good head on my shoulders and I was pretty like driven and focused and just super interested in the human body. I saw women like Linda Hamilton from the Terminator,
Mhm.
um, Gail Devers, the track star, Corey Everson, the famous female bodybuilder. So these are women that like I would look at their pictures and just think that is like the most beautiful thing I've ever seen, like just that physique. And I just wanted to obtain that for myself. And
Yeah.
I was around the age 16 when I started seeing women like this. Prior to that, I hadn't really seen muscular women. And I think Linda Hamilton is really kind of the one that like made that just so freaking awesome. And when she was doing those chin ups in the movie, oh my
Oh,
god,
yeah.
I think everybody knows that scene. So
Sure.
yeah, so that was my, silly little inspiration to go figure out how can I get that for myself.
Yeah, mine was, not as healthy of an example maybe because it was Pumping Iron by Arnold Schwarzenegger, then Conan the Barbarian, right? As a young boy watching it, I'm like, "Oh, I'm gonna
Yeah.
go outside and just push stuff and lift stuff, and I'll look like that."
Yep. Yep.
But, I'm curious too because I was talking to someone on a few episodes ago because I started as a trainer in 2000, and I remember very few women that would we used to have like a carpeted area. There was like all these the treadmills, the cardio, then we had like this carpeted area with like some machines, then it was like this is where the guys train. Not that it was like a rule, but you saw like one female, like one woman come over by like free weights and hammer strength equipment and all that. So I'm curious, in it sounds like probably the 90s ish is when you kind of were getting into this. What was that like? Did you experience a similar thing? Was it kind of, hey, what are you doing? Because it wasn't as a social norm as it is as it's been for some time now. But so I'm dating
Right.
myself a little bit, but I think that's a I guess can you talk a little bit about that transition in your experience?
Yeah, well, when I went to the gym for the first time, I was on the treadmill.
Mm,
I went to the gym as a runner, a competitive runner, and so weight training wasn't really like, something I was doing. It's a funny story. So this guy walked up to me when I was on the treadmill and he said, "Hey, there's a running group. We meet at 5 a.m. If you ever want to come run with us." And I'm like, "You're insane. Nice guy, but you're crazy." I ended up marrying him, by the way. But he actually, we kept bumping into each other at the gym and he lifted weights too. So he was a triathlete and he was lifting weights. So fortunately, this was a very sort of intimate gym setting. It
mm,
wasn't like a Planet Fitness or some of these huge gyms where you've got thousands of people looking at you when you're working out. This was a pretty intimate setting, small town. And so there weren't a lot of people in the gym, period. And so that, took the intimidation away for me. So I was fortunate in that regard. But he just kind of like took me under his wing and, um, you know, we just kept at it, kept at it, kept at it. And, before you know it, you turn around and you're like, wow, I've been doing this weight training thing for a year. Like I know what I'm doing now. I can walk into any gym
feel
and,
confident. Yeah.
I know what to do.
Yeah, no, it's really cool. And it was so Jen Thompson, she's like the goat in women's natural powerlifting. And if you like saw a picture of her, she's a school teacher, you'd be like, she's a powerlifting champion. I mean, she looks fit, don't get me wrong, but she benches well over 300 pounds and she weighs like 135 pounds. My point
Yeah,
is, very similar story, like, and actually married the guy that approached her in a gym. So
that's so
guys,
funny.
it's kind of creepy, but nowadays, but back then it seemed to work. So
Yeah.
I guess the guys had better game back then. Um, but yeah, it was just kind of interesting. He was a strength coach and such and got her into it. And now she's who she went on to become. And we kind of had a conversation about that as well, like that transition, because I think and we'll get into the weeds more with your experiences in programming, but on this topic, I'm curious, women in that 35, 40 to 60 age bracket, I feel like that's still the not for all of them. There's been a lot of awareness, but that's still kind of the mental block is like, well, I remember back then, and then maybe, kids, family, career, maybe they got, just weren't doing some exercise and going to the gym, things like that. And now they're starting that later in life and they still have this, I don't want to say negative, but this false relationship with resistance or strength training. I mean, do you find that with a lot of specifically the women that are coming in to talk to you? Is it in that age group? Is it kind of still that old school thought of like bulky or I shouldn't do this or I should be cardio queen or whatever the case is?
Yeah, a little bit. I do think we're doing a pretty good job as a society, promoting women lifting weights. I mean, and maybe I'm biased because I see it a lot because of the
Yeah.
field I'm in. And
Yeah.
so, like, my social media is full of women who lift weights because
Sure.
Instagram knows that's what I'm all about. So
Right.
maybe I'm a little biased and maybe not accurate, but like you said, I think there's more awareness now. I do still occasionally get the phone call from a female who needs to lose weight, and I'm talking her through my program. Um, she'll mention, exercise and what should I be doing? And hey, doesn't strength training like make you bulky? So I
Mhm.
do still get that. And it's hard to get
Right.
bulky. I mean, it like, it takes a lot to put on
Right.
muscle,
Right.
it's not like, I mean, unless you're just genetically gifted, like you're one of those rare people that you just go lift, a dumbbell and you've instantly got biceps, but it takes a lot of work to be able to get bulky, and a lot of times it takes special, substances as well. So,
Right.
yeah, I do see it a little bit, but I do appreciate the awareness that I think is out there now around this, and I feel like it's constantly being talked about, through, like, scientific studies and, like Harvard School of Medicine and Harvard Health and, all these journals are doing studies on women in strength training, specifically women who are premenopausal or going through menopause.
Yeah. No, I remember there's a study in the early 2000s that showed the number one indicator of assisted living versus non-assisted living was resistance training. And we're
Wow.
talking like CDC guidelines. It was like 30 minutes a day. I think it was 4 movements, 8 to 12 reps, 3 sets, really basic. And it was the number one indicator. And they had, some larger model that they did in the research. But I remember coming home and trying to talk to some of the older women in my family, or grandmas and aunts and such, and but it was still just this like, well, I don't want to look like you, because I was competing in strength sports at the time, and I'm like, no, 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 like that's not what I'm saying. I'm like, oh, never mind. I'm like, I'm
Yeah.
just, these
Yeah.
are things that help you, and it was just really eye opening. I was like, oh, okay, never really thought of that. And in early in my training career, I used that a lot because I would get, I recall a client who, one of her number one things is she was just like, I just don't want to slip on the ice anymore. And I struggle bringing my groceries in the house. And I'm sitting there, little 21-year-old, trainer, fresh with my education, think I know it all, and getting into the strength sports. And I'm like, oh, okay. Like, luckily, I was introduced to a really good certification at the time, which was National Academy of Sports Medicine, and they really did a nice job, like, breaking down someone who's completely sedentary and how to bring them in. But it was just that eye-opening thing, like, oh yeah, like, this isn't all about what I'm all about, right? Like, this is different. So
She opened your eyes to functional fitness,
exactly.
the whole concept, which everybody knows about now, like,
Right.
just fitness for survival, right? Like, just going up your flight of stairs or getting off the couch. I mean, that's important.
Right. Right. Well, and I'm curious too, this just, you've been doing this for so long, and all the years of not only education but practical experience. What are maybe one or two things in your personal journey that you feel has helped you at this point, like working with clients? Does anything stick out where it was nutrition or training related?
So let me understand the question. You're wanting to know specifically for me what's been impactful or
Yeah, just maybe something with your experiences and how you're able to apply that in your programs with your clients.
so yeah, I mean, from a nutrition standpoint, before I became a nutrition coach, I had to kind of learn how to get this right for myself,
Mhm.
obviously. And I mean, this is what attracted me to want to help others. I mean, I think a lot of times we kind of fall into career paths or doing things because there was an area that we struggled in our
Mhm.
life, regardless of what it is, finances, nutrition, computers, whatever. You struggled with it and you figured it out. And now you've got the answer and you want to help other people. Right. So
Sure.
for me, it was, and something that my clients do is the frequently feeding yourself throughout the day, so managing that blood sugar. I had to learn that for myself. So, that's something that I apply in my programs too, is, before I came into this, I learned that there's a certain amount of energy my body requires each day to maintain itself.
Right.
So restricting food all day, thinking that's the win, never worked because you would come home from school or work and you're so hungry because you tried the I'm just not going to eat all day tactic.
Mhm.
And now your blood sugar is low and you want to eat your arm.
Right.
So I got tired of doing that. And I realized, okay, this is stupid. I need a certain amount of energy each day. This we know. Okay. This is science. So to sustain yourself, you have to eat food. So if I need X amount of calories a day to sustain myself, then why don't I just kind of break that down into small meals throughout the day so that at the end of the day, I've hit my calorie budget. Um, I feel good. My body is, responding well. I'm managing the blood sugar. And then on top of that, frequently eating protein throughout the day too. It takes more energy to break down protein than it does
Right.
carbohydrates or fats. So just by including more protein in your diet, you are kicking up that metabolism.
Right.
So
Yeah.
that's one thing I learned from myself and, implement in with my strategies for my clients.
Yeah, it's definitely an interesting topic of protein because I do see a little bit of obsession on the minimum sedentary person protein requirement that's published by the CDC. And, I'll even post content or see content, and you'll always see someone in the comments like, you only need this many per grams per kilogram. It's like, I'm just, I guess I want to formulate this into a question because I'm too stuck in my own head about my own thoughts on it. But it's, I wonder, like, how does that come up for you? I guess is my first question. Do you find that men, women, they kind of generally will come to you under eating protein or have a misconception of, how much protein they need?
That's a very confusing topic and probably controversial at this point. How much protein? I think everybody's walking around on this planet trying to figure that out. But yeah, a lot of women, especially, I would say, are not getting enough protein and fiber. I
Oh
mean,
yeah,
you can, they're both important. But
sure.
yeah, the protein thing, yes. I spoke with a woman the other day who we were walking through what her day looks like food wise. Cause I always try to get in their life. Like, what does your day look like? Tell me what you eat. That way I can gauge, how drastically different is my program going to be for you? Like, you know, or maybe you're almost there already. We just need to tweak a couple things, right? But I can get a snapshot of their life. And she went through the whole day and I don't think I heard any protein in there. I mean, and protein can be cottage cheese, Greek yogurt. It can be a whey protein shake. It can be steak, chicken, fish. I mean, there's I think people don't know
What? Yeah, it's a good source, right?
what's a good source. And to me, that seems so foreign, just like probably to you. Like, I just think everybody knows what protein is because I've been doing this for so long. I think you forget that the general population probably doesn't.
Yeah, it's interesting too because I saw. I think there's 2 points too, and I wanna unpack them for the audience, a little bit more, but one of them was, so Don Layman, I think is how you say his name, so he's a professor at the University of Minnesota, and, like, some of the popular influencers, like Dr. Gabrielle Leon studied underneath him, got her PhD from him, and then, I believe Dr. Lane Norton too did. But my point is, he had a really interesting study that um, women as a percent of total calories, pick a number, I forget the exact number to study, but let's say it's like 30% of their dietary need is protein. And in their 20s, the volume of calories, right? Like their total amount is so high that that's enough to meet their minimum requirements to just maintain their lean tissues. And then over time, as they eat less and less and less, because their appetite goes down as they age, their percent stays the same. So it keeps going down. And basically his argument or his findings were there's like an absolute threshold, and I'm picking a number, let's say it's 100 grams, and when you were 20, that 30% of your total calories, 100 grams is fine to preserve it. But when you're 50, you still need the 100, but now your load, your total caloric intake is down, so that percent's going to be higher. And I thought that
Yeah.
was a really interesting, like, because he was looking at lifespan protein requirements and protein needs, and I just felt like that's a really easy way for people to conceptualize what could be happening later in life with the loss of lean tissue, because they're like, you just hit it on the head. Like, well, I eat protein, and they're like, okay, well, let's track it. And like, well, I had peanut butter and I had peanuts, and it's like, okay, this is a whole different
Yeah.
because that was one of the questions I had is, what are some things maybe out there that you find that people mistakenly track as peanut butter. My mind's peanut butter. Track on protein or like track for calculate or whatever in that area of their nutrition.
Well, peanut butter is a good one. It cracks me up when someone says peanut butter is a source of protein, or it is a source of protein. I think there's 5 or 6 grams in a serving, but okay, a serving of peanut butter is 200 calories.
Right.
okay, there's only 5 grams of protein in that. So I don't count that as high protein
Right.
at all.
Right.
High protein to me is within a 200 calorie piece of food, you've got at least 20 to 25 grams of protein. To me,
Yeah.
that would be considered a high protein food.
Yeah,
So
that's a good, easy kinda way that people can conceptualize that. That's good.
same thing, like if I'm looking at protein bars, a lot of
Mhm.
people use bars, and including myself,
Sure.
to supplement and just, make life easy. If it's a 200 calorie bar, it better have 20 grams of protein. I mean, if it doesn't, then I'm moving on and finding another one.
Well, one of the things that comes up with me, and I'd love to hear if there's other ones, or that I shouldn't say with me, but that I hear, out there from coaches, but I love to if there's another one to add to this, but is their client's ability to, like, prep and plan is the biggest hurdle for them. It's not even really, like, that they don't wanna eat it or whatever, and I know you have some really good content, so for those of you out there, definitely check out Molly's Instagram, about, like, different snacks that you like to use and things like that. I'm just curious, like, how do you approach that? What are some tips you give people when they're first starting, as far as whether it's meal prepping or snacks or planning and all those things, with life being so busy as it can get?
Yeah, well, I mean, that's every client I help. Life is busy, we are just there's always something to do.
Right.
So here's the thing is make it easy.
Right.
Make it so simple that you can't fail. And so what that looks like for me and my clients is you're not changing up what you eat every single day of the week, okay? So you like ground turkey, let's say. So that's going to be part of your meal for the next 4 days. Make a bunch of ground turkey, pair it with the vegetable you like. Let's put the seasonings on it that you like. Let's get the amount that you need based on the plan I gave you and like on repeat. So we're going to make this simple. You
Right.
don't need a different dinner every night of the week. So find what you like.
Sure.
Don't eat food you hate. Pick the protein from the list that you get and then
Yep.
pick your vegetables that you like and let's just get on repeat here. And then you know what? When you get tired of that meal, then that's when you change it up. Create another one, and then now you've got another meal in your database. So, and then over the course of time, now you've got 10 meals
Right.
that hit the goals that you need. So they're in the parameters of the protein you need, the vegetables you need, the carbs, all that. You've got your little database now. So that's what I do. I
Sure.
tell people, look, you're a mom, you've got 3 kids, you've got a husband who works all the time. You're running people here, running people there. Let's just make this easy.
Yeah. Just make it a habit, right? Just like brushing your teeth. It's just, I got to prep this. I have to do this, or whatever the case is. Yeah.
And the other thing too is, don't forget, you can grab a rotisserie chicken for $6. I mean,
Sure. Sure.
go get a chicken and you're coming home from cheerleading practice with your daughter, just swing in, grab a chicken, then you're set. You've got the protein you need and you can make them whatever, but
Right.
keep you on track. You can do eggs for dinner. There's nothing wrong with that. That's easy. So
Yeah, a lot of options. So it it sounds like you provide a food list for your clients with the nutrition piece. Can you talk a little more, like, what does the intake look like? What are some things that how you like to start the relationship or start the plan with somebody when they're just getting going with it?
so intake, you mean nutrition wise or the intake of me bringing on a new client?
Yeah, I think just starting with the first step, right? Like when they come on with you, and then
Okay.
transitioning into the application of nutrition. Yeah.
Yeah. So typically what happens is I utilize social media. So someone will reach out to me and just say, hey, I'd like to learn more about your nutrition plans. And so I'll send them my assessment, my
Mm.
my wellness evaluation. And that's really just so I can gauge and make sure they're a good fit for what I do.
Sure.
Um, I can help most people, but sometimes if I see there's just a ton of food allergies and a lot going on there, you know, my nutrition plan may be a struggle. And
Sure.
so, then I would advise, hey, y- stay up on your labs, make sure you get your testing, come back to me, maybe we can work something out. That's where lab testing is really handy.
Sure.
Um, and then, so anyways, if they are a candidate, then basically I match the plan that's right for them. So if they're sedentary, I've got a plan that works really well, for that group of people. It's a little lower calorie than the one I would advise for my athletes. Now, I do get a lot of women and men who are fit.
Hmm.
They're active, they're lifting weights 4 days a week, or are doing, you know, um, CrossFit, or, they're running. I've worked with endurance athletes, but they're still carrying around the 10 to 15 pounds,
Sure.
and, they're frustrated. So I've got a plan for them. It's a little bit higher calorie than somebody who would be sedentary, obviously. And for them, I would say we need to work together when you're not in your competitive season, because you don't really want to restrict calories when you're, competing.
Right. Especially with endurance related, right? Yeah.
Yeah, like in a triathlon, or, an ultra run or a marathon, something like that. It's really hard to be in a calorie deficit and train well. You have to
Right.
have a gas tank full of glycogen. So I tell people, I'm transparent. I say, look, let's get you lean. This is what you want. You are still going to get to work out, but you need to realize that during this phase of your journey, this is not the time to hit a PR. Like, you're not going to max
Right.
deadlift when you're
Right.
in this cut. So just know that you're going to go through your routine, but you're not going to break records.
Sure. No, and I think that's good, like good practice. And I'm sure that's why you've been successful too, from an integrity standpoint. It's not like you're trying to cram everybody into, this cookie cutter approach, and you're like, hey, let's just wait. Let's wait 2 months. Let's wait till you're ready. Let's wait 3 months.
Yeah.
It's something like I personally don't do as much coaching anymore, but I used to tell them like you either need a cook or a chef coach, like I'm more the cook. Like I'll give you the macros and raw ingredients, but I'm not creative with my food. Like you can ask my kids or my wife, like it's just not good. I'm like, but if you need the chef, like I'm probably not, the one for you if you're constantly looking for, well, how can I make this better? How can I make it taste better? And there's some brilliant coaches out there that, some of them even like have a culinary background where I'm like, I am going to tell you, like, back in the day, I'd use the Foreman grill and like a rice cooker. Like, so
Yep.
you
Yep.
don't, your family's not going to like me. So, and you got to make sure it fits for you. Right. So like, what is your style? And I think coaches that I've had the, great opportunity to talk to that are successful like yourself is they have their way, and they make sure you're a fit. Right. So if you find yourself out there for the audience where someone's really trying to convince you to buy their deal or get started with it, it might be, buyer beware, right? Might gotta pause and rethink that. So I think if they're asking a lot of qualifying questions, it's a good approach, and it's a good sign because they're going to be honest and direct you there. But
Right. Yeah. And I always tell people on the phone call, so they submit their form, and then I send my calendar link, and then we jump on a 15-20 minute phone call. And I always say, look, this is for you to get educated about what I do. It's not a pressure call, but I'm going to
right,
share the way that I've been helping people, and a very effective path. And it's up to you if you want to partner together. I would love that. But, if it's not for you, then that's okay too. We're still friends. I still love you.
sure, yeah, yeah. Don't unfollow, no,
Don't unfollow me.
or bash me in the comments, no.
Right, right. Yeah.
Well, yeah, it's I because you mentioned earlier too, you have men and women coming through to meet with you. I'm curious of